President Trump has given his first network TV interview since leaving office.
And during this TV interview, he repeatedly continues to claim that the 2020 election was rigged against him. Let's bring in Fox Eye's Robert Moses. He has more details on this. Robert, good morning.
Bianca and Rosanna, good morning to you. That's 2020. Now let's turn our attention to 2024. And there's a new CBS News poll out. It shows former President Donald Trump leading President Joe Biden by just 1 percentage point, which is within the margin of error, which is to say this is shaping up to be a very tight race. However, there is still a long way to go until we get there, including for the former president, potentially multiple criminal trials.
You keep interrupting me.
Former President Donald Trump sat for a contentious and wide-ranging interview with the new host of NBC's Meet the Press, Kristen Welker. The former president is seeking to reclaim the office he lost in 2020 as he faces 4 criminal indictments.
When you go to bed at night, do you worry about going to jail?
No, I don't really. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess.
2 of the 4 indictments focus on the former president's response to the 2020 election. He continued to fight the results despite many in his inner circle telling him that he had lost.
As to whether or not I believed it was rigged, oh, sure. It was my decision, but I listened to some people.
Supporters of the former president stormed the Capitol on January 6th, 2021. He did not rule out pardoning those who have been convicted if he's reelected.
I certainly might if I think it's appropriate.
As for his own behavior on January 6th,
Do you think you showed leadership on that day?
Yes, absolutely, I did.
Okay.
former President Trump enjoys a wide lead over his Republican challengers. He said he likes the concept of choosing a female running mate and confirmed that South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is a contender. He criticized a different governor and his nearest competitor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, for signing a 6-week abortion ban.
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
But he would not get specific about what he would do on the issue.
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years.
The former president and 18 others face charges in Georgia related to the 2020 election. One of his co-defendants is former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Former President Trump said he hopes Meadows, quote, is loyal to me. He didn't answer when he was asked if he worries about Meadows flipping. Bianca and Rosanna, back to you.